Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Vegas? It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro coming at you on a Thursday, baby. Glad you could join us. A lot to dig into today. As always, so glad you could be with us. Some great guests lined up for you today. Gonna have some fun, as we always do. Coming up here in a few minutes, Amy Vanderpool from the BBC will be joining us. Are we headed to a civil war? That's what some people think. With this Trump impeachment inquiry, we'll get to Amy coming up here in just a few. And then coming up next hour, God, I love these segments that Darcy Spears does for ABC 13 here. These dirty dining segments. Some of the most disgusting restaurants you don't want to set foot in. She's going to join us coming up in hour number 2 to talk a little bit about that. And also, Raider alum and NFL champion Leo Gray will be joining us. He was part of that Super Bowl team in 1980. They got a huge Raiders charity event coming up here in Las Vegas tonight, so Leo's going to join us in hour number 3 to talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little NFL with him as well, I'm sure, so that'll be coming up in hour number 3. Mike Babcock, you might have heard that name in the news besides the fact that Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports joins us every week. Well, he got into an altercation with somebody at TMZ live on the air, and that person that got into a debate with him was fired. I don't know how much he can talk about when it comes to this stuff, but we're going to ask him about it. What happens when you're a reporter and you report on the news, but then you are the news? That's got to feel weird, right? Mike will be joining us coming up in hour number 3. Some ridiculous comments by Kelly Ripa. You're not going to believe what she said about her son. We'll get to that coming up in hour number 3 as well. But I want to start with this because we've talked a lot about the Eric Garner case. We've talked a lot about police brutality. We've talked a lot about the way certain police officers treat minorities. My opinion on the Eric Garner case is pretty simple. Eric Garner was no saint. Eric Garner was breaking the law. Eric Garner did not comply with police, but Eric Garner did not deserve to die. I do not believe the chokehold that was used was proper, and for that, I was totally fine with that police officer losing his job. Because without that chokehold, Eric Garner would be alive today. Now, you could make the argument, if Eric Garner complied with police, he would probably still be alive today. And I agree with that argument, by the way. Make no mistake about it. People are looking at Eric Garner as the saint. He was no saint, and not just because he was trying to sell cigarettes. You look at how many times he was arrested in his life, also for domestic abuse, by the way. So this was not a good man. And if his family wants to get up there and paint him out to be this wonderful man, well, guess what? It's a lie, because Eric Garner was not a good man. It's, I don't want to compare him to Michael Brown in the Ferguson situation, but people did that with Michael Brown, too. It's just not factually accurate. With that being said, I did not agree with this police officer and what went down. So the former New York police officer who did do this chokehold is now suing the police department to get reinstated. His name is Daniel Pantaleo. He filed a lawsuit yesterday alleging that the NYPD's decision to terminate him was arbitrary. His attorney confirmed to NBC News that the NYPD Commissioner James O'Neill chose to fire Pantaleo at the recommendation of NYPD's Deputy Commissioner of Trials. He said it is clear that Daniel Pantaleo can no longer effectively serve as the New York police officer. Listen, I agree with that. I don't think he can. So we're going to continue to monitor this story. I'm getting a weird deer in headlights stare from my co-host, JD. JD has just arrived. JD, thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you?
What is your excuse? Do you have a note? Do you have a hall pass? Why are you late today? I want to know. I think the listeners deserve to know.
I have neither of those things.
Okay.
I woke up at approximately 8:40 today.
And is it difficult to set your alarm? Because I don't know. I'm not in your shoes. You have a family.
I do have a family.
Is it difficult?
I do have a very young daughter, and she was up for the majority of the night.
So how difficult is it to set your alarm? Is that a hard chore? No, I don't know. Really, I don't know.
I actually set my alarm, and I didn't hear it come off. I'll be completely honest with you.
So did you ever think to yourself that maybe you should get another alarm clock? Is that I don't know. I'm going to get you that for your birthday. I'm going to get you another alarm clock for your birthday.
In 11 months?
No, I'll get it now, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'll pretend your birthday is now.
Okay. Well,
I'll get you another
birthday was
alarm
actually about 3.5 weeks ago, Brian.
Okay. Why don't we talk about the beverage that you're putting together right now? What do you got going there? What is this?
So every morning...
Because this is far more important than what we were just talking
absolutely.
about.
Okay,
Yeah.
so every morning I get I always get a water from the basement, and then I bring a very berry hibiscus
Wow, this is fascinating.
shaker.
This is really
And
fascinating.
over the course of the day,
Yeah.
I probably use about a third of this every hour. I carefully put it in my beverage, my water, and then I stir it, and then I drink it.
Could we get a nutrition specialist to come on and talk about this?
That's how that goes.
This is so fascinating.
And I
Wow.
feel like it gives me just a little bit of a jolt. I'm not a coffee guy. I'm more of a very berry, but it is a Starbucks brand, very berry hibiscus.
Wow.
You know what? It tastes great.
You know so much about this drink. I wish you knew a little bit more about showing up on time. Is that a mean thing to say? Am I being mean to you this morning? You tell me. Am I being unfair to you today?
I honestly, I have no issue with the way that you approach right now.
Okay,
Brian.
you don't. Okay,
Zero.
Because I do find
Nope,
this.
zero. Wait. I'm actually offended, and I think you should be fired.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
I think you should lose the ability
I like
to
how
make
you did
money.
that. I like how you did that.
That's what I think.
I like how you did. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to run some bets every day on the show. The over-under on when JD is going to arrive. I said today it was 9:05 a.m. I was right on the money. I think the over came in by about 30 seconds. So, I'm pretty good at setting lines on this thing.
Well, right now we're trying to get our daughter to sleep in her own room, and it's just not easy to do.
Nobody cares about your
It's
daughter.
very difficult.
Our listeners don't care.
And when she's up all night, it's hard for me to sleep.
Our listeners don't care.
I know you have no kids, Brian, but I would guess that a lot of our listeners do.
How do you know I don't have any kids? How do you know that? I might have kids floating around somewhere that I don't know about.
Okay, do you have kids, Brian?
You don't know. Not that I know of. I mean, there's a possibility. I've had sexual relations with women before. I have had unprotected sex with women. We don't need to get into more detail on that. But, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get you an alarm that works, okay? So that way you can't use it as an excuse anymore. And that's a cop-out. You can't use your daughter as an excuse. That's not fair. That's not fair. You can't. It's like you saying to me, Brian, I'm in an awful mood. It's because my daughter was up all night. No, that's not fair. You can't do that. It's not fair. You could use, listen, that's a really good excuse with your alarm clock. I believe you, actually. But we need to solve that problem. We're going to make sure we solve that problem. Look at the board, JD. Look at the board, because I know you haven't looked at the board yet. Look at what we're supposed to be doing in our first segment. You're a part of our first segment. Read what that says.
I'm not going to read what that says, Brian, because it's 100% untrue.
First of all, I didn't write it. Our producer
Obviously,
Stein, get in
Stein
here.
wrote it.
Yeah, Stein, get in here.
He's been very uptight since the conversation we had yesterday.
Okay, so if you don't recall, yesterday, can we move on, by the way, from your alarm clock? Is that okay with you?
No, let's stay on it.
Oh, okay. No, I want to move on.
The board is phrased as a question. The question is JD a racist? I learned when I was writing for television, I learned that if you put a question mark at the end of something, you can put anything on the TV, anything on the lower third, as long as you put a question mark after it.
I like
if
it.
I write, right, so if we're on TV, if we're on Fox News or something, and the lower third reads, JD is a racist, well, then we could be sued, right? You can't just say things that are possibly untrue. But if I put a question mark, is JD a racist? Now you have a great segment.
Why don't you explain why you wrote that, though, Jason? Give us a little bit of a background for our listeners.
Well, background is that we had a conversation yesterday. There was a man in Tennessee, a county commissioner in Tennessee, who went on an angry white man rant during a meeting. He used the word queer to describe Pete Buttigieg.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of spawned a conversation between JD and Brian about what's appropriate in the workplace. What can you say? What can you not say? What's fireable? What's not a fireable offense? If someone calls you a bad word or you were offended in any kind of way, should you deal with that person one-on-one? Should you go to your boss?
Okay, so then under it should say, is Brian a giant liberal borderline hippie?
Why? Because if I think someone calls somebody the N-word in the workplace, they should be fired. That makes me a hippie?
I didn't say that. Obviously, if someone is called the N-word in the
So
workplace,
what did I say yesterday
they
that
should
would
be fired. Or if someone is working,
let me be
and-
clear.
Hang on. So
or if someone's at a job,
Can I defend you for a second?
Defend me for what?
First of all, no, I do not think my co-host is a racist.
No, and I don't
I will
either.
be clear on that.
I don't either.
However, I am not a hippie either. First of all,
is Brian an extremely
Absolutely not.
sensitive?
absolutely not. Yeah, because I'm
Liberal.
so sensitive because I don't want people to use the N-word in the workplace. That
Gentlemen,
Again, it's just a question. I can ask any question I want to, as long as it's got a question mark at
JD
the
was
end.
JD was articulating.
I see what he's doing there. I see what he's
his point. Yes, this was yesterday. He was articulating, his belief on that issue, and then kind of had some lingering feelings after the show, and we all had a little powwow. And hey, what I was saying, did that make sense? And I said, yeah, it made sense. I understood completely what you're saying. He was afraid his words were going to be twisted and misconstrued, and that some people might think he's a racist, which of course is absurd. He's not. I know the guy, furthest thing from the truth. And if Minister Stretch Sanders was here,
he's definitely
he would
not-
tell you the same thing.
He's not qualified to be in the Klan, so don't worry, JD. They're not going to come after you. I promise. Okay,
Just because he likes to wear
so what-
white doesn't mean.
You do wear white a lot, though. All right, so
I wear white every single day.
explain what you need to explain, if that makes sense. Why did you feel the way you felt after that segment, and what do you feel like you need to say? Because we were talking about this city councilman in Tennessee, as Stein just explained, that called Pete Buttigieg a queer, and I said, when you say something like that and it's in the workplace or you're representing people, you should be fired. It is my personal opinion. If you say something that is homophobic, if you say something that is racist in the workplace, I don't feel bad for you. You should be fired. Now, I think there's different levels of offending people, but if you use the N-word or you call somebody a queer that might be a homosexual and you don't agree with their lifestyle, you should lose your job. I don't think that makes me a hippie. I don't think that makes me a liberal. I think that makes me a decent human being, and I want everybody treated fairly and equally. I don't think that puts any label on me except being a decent person. That's just the way I feel. So what do you say?
Well, I think that obviously if you use the N-word and towards another employee and you working for someone else, yeah, you should definitely get fired for that. Or if say you're a hairstylist and you insult someone while you're doing their hair, yeah, you should lose your job for that as well, because you're affecting the bottom line of the company. But I think that in this overly politically correct culture, people are losing their jobs for anything. And the problem with that is once you lose your job, first of all, what if you have kids? What if you own money in student loans? It's hard to get another job. It's more of like a 2 to 5 year process. And so at what point did someone's feelings become more important than someone else's livelihood? And I don't understand where that happened. And it's very interesting to me that the far left wing, like Antifa, for example, they simply they want to go after homophobes. They want to go after people who are saying homophobic things, but at the same time they're not trying to, like, they're preaching love and peace, but they're attacking someone.
Why are you bringing up Antifa?
I'm just
They're
saying it's an
they're a
example.
violent group.
It's an example of
I don't
a
understand what that
far
has to-
left wing group.
Okay,
but
so-
this happens pretty consistently, where you have someone who is preaching unity and love and all this and that, but then at the same time that their definition of that, or their result of that, is getting someone fired from their job or taking someone's livelihood away from them. And I think that's happening on a far too consistent basis in 2019.
I think you're taking this. You're getting way too into the weeds in this. And here's what I mean.
Yesterday you kept bringing up the N-word, and that wasn't the conversation. The conversation was political correctness.
The conversation
and
is saying
how
offensive.
specific people, when they say things,
We're talking about
the hammers drop
Okay,
down on them.
here's
and
the
then they lose their ability to have a job
I
or have a livelihood. And again, now I'm a Caucasian. I'm not Jewish.
You're very Caucasian and you're very not Jewish.
I'm
Yes,
not.
You're right.
I'm not a homosexual. So
That's debatable.
I've never been. Nothing about me has been persecuted against. But does that take away my opinion for this? I mean, I don't
Okay,
know.
okay.
I'm a pretty.
okay.
I don't know.
You've said a lot here. I've tried to be quiet.
Yeah.
You've said a lot, and you deserve the right to talk about this. There's a lot you said. Here's what I'll start with. It is a case-by-case basis, specific case-by-case basis. If I make fun of your shirt and I say it makes you look bad, do I deserve to be fired? No. But if I called you, and I'm giving out these examples again because I think it's very important. If you are a homosexual and I say, you know what, you're a queer, I think that is a fireable offense. If I use the N-word, if I say something horrible about your religion, if you're Jewish and I use the K word, I'm not going to say it on the air, but if I say that word, I do think that is a fireable offense. It is dependent on the type of words that you use. If you are in the workplace and there is an African American that you work with and you don't like him for whatever reason, could be his skin color, could be for whatever reason, it could be because you just think he smells or something, I don't know, and you call him the N-word, absolutely that is a fireable offense. And I am not going to say as a boss, well, you know what? You did call that person the N-word, but you know what? Since you have a family and since you have kids and it might be hard for you to get another job, we're not going to fire you. I think that's ridiculous. The family is completely academic to the situation. It has everything to do with what you said.
Now, it can be argued that if say you're an attorney and you're working for someone else and you're 20 years and you're 47 years old, you've got 3 or 4 kids at home, and you get fired from this job for calling
For what?
For calling someone whatever it is.
Well, not whatever. Tell me exactly what was said.
For the N-word or
Yes.
or
If you use the N-word, you're done.
Or calling someone a queer.
You're done. You're done. I don't care what your family situation is. You're done. I don't care if he's got 30 kids and he might not ever be able to get a job again. You're done. Because this is not about the First Amendment. The First Amendment is very simple. The government can't tell you what you can or cannot say, but your employer can, and that's what people don't understand. Your employer can tell you what you can or cannot say. Okay, that's the distinction and the difference with the First Amendment. You can go on the sidewalk and say,
So then is offending someone a crime? Because that could be, I mean, I look at that and I think that that's basically a crime. If I'm fired from my job, say I'm making $150K a year and now I have no job and I try to get a new job and I can't because I'm labeled a racist and I can't do it for 5 years and suddenly my entire wherewithal, my livelihood is just gone because I decided, granted it was my bad decision, but I decided to offend someone. Is that not the same thing as a crime?
It's not a crime.
How is it not? If you're losing your livelihood,
if you're losing
your ability to make money,
I'm answering your question.
I'm just saying that's where things are at, and I feel like there should be some type of additional alternative something attached to it. Like 25 years ago, there would be
Why would you defend somebody that uses the N-word in the workplace?
I'm not defending anyone.
It sounds like you are.
I am not at all. I'm just saying when you offend someone,
it depends on what you say.
When just listen, when you offend someone, should you lose your ability to make money?
It depends on what you say.
Like, okay,
I keep telling you that.
And yesterday you said, okay, what if someone threatens your family? What if someone threatens to murder your wife and your family? I mean, that's a crime.
Okay.
Right.
So you're saying it has to be a crime in order to be fired? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not. I'm just saying that it's kind of the same result. If you've been doing this, say you've been a radio guy for 30 or 40 years, and you offend someone, and you offend the wrong person, and you lose your job, and that person is so mad that you offended them that you have this mark on your record, and you can't get another job in radio.
First of all, if you call somebody a queer and you lose your job, you are capable. The company is not allowed to give out that sort of information. So you're wrong.
Right. So there are specific words in this world that you cannot ever use.
Yes.
Otherwise, your entire livelihood is gone.
Yeah. You're a moron if you call people the N-word. Yes.
Whatever, moron or not, but your entire livelihood, your entire wherewithal is gone.
First of all, you're exaggerating.
No matter what. No,
yes,
I'm not.
You are.
No,
yes,
when you lose your job, you lose your ability to make money.
Okay.
And when you're
guess what? There's an opportunity to find another job.
Not if you're
not the end of your life if you lose your job.
Not if you're labeled as a homophobe or a racist.
What do you mean labeled? What do you mean labeled? If you work for a company, they're not allowed to release that information. They're not allowed to release that information. I don't know what you're talking about. If you call somebody the N-word in the workplace, for example, and you lose your job, if that employer, don't use them as a reference, and if that employer calls that person and say, hey, did you, they're not allowed to release that information. They could be sued for releasing that information. So why don't we take some phone calls? 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's start off with Al. Al, welcome to the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
What's up, Al?
Good morning, guys. Hey, JD. So I'm going to attempt to come to your rescue a little bit here, JD. And if I'm totally off base, please let me know. Brian, I think you're 1,000% right that if you do something so egregious as to use the N-word with a coworker, you do deserve to lose your job because that's just ignorant, right? But, JD, is this what you're saying? So if I worked for a company and I had, for instance, a drug or an alcohol problem that was impacting my job, which, again, my fault, totally ignorant on my part, but I have a problem, and I went to my employer, they would send me for treatment or additional training or coping skills because I was a good employee.
Right.
Are you saying that if somebody made a mistake, clearly isn't a racist, but used an inappropriate word such as the N-word, that an employer should say, hey, we're going to try to train you and teach you new ways to express yourself or your views or your opinions in a way that isn't going to, one, cost you your job, and two, keep you from making such an egregious error in the future.
Right, or educate you on why when you say this to someone else, because there may not be, a lot of it comes down to they just don't understand what that word really means to somebody else.
All right, well, let me be clear.
Or educate you on why what you're saying could affect somebody else.
Let me be clear. I don't care what part of the country you live in. I don't care what your upbringing is. If you think it's okay as a white person to call an African American the N-word, and you think a boss should take you aside and say, hey, you know what, we want to get you help, I think that is utterly laughable and ridiculous. And if somebody is that ignorant and stupid to think that there's nothing wrong with calling somebody else the N-word, guess what? I don't want that person working because, quite frankly, I don't think they deserve to work, and I don't even think they deserve to be in society. They're so dumb, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's my opinion, and I'm not going to give that person any sort of second chance.
Well, wow.
All right, Al, I'll take it.
Al, thanks for the call.
I've got to get to some other callers, my man.
I guess the way I look at it, I think it's on a one-time basis, one time, because people make mistakes. People are not perfect.
Yeah, well, that's not a mistake.
Obviously, consistent behavior. It's
not a mistake.
Consistent harassment. That's something totally different.
Let's take another phone call. 257-5396. Let's go to Mike. Mike, what's up?
What's up, Mike?
Thank you for the call, Mike. Appreciate it. Let's go to Brian. Brian, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
What's up, Brian? It's going well.
257-5396 is the number to call. Go ahead. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
No, you cut me off, Brian. You dismissed my thought, so let's go to our callers.
No, I'm not dismissing thoughts. I'm trying to get to as many callers as I can in a short period of time. That's all. 257-5396 is the number to call. I believe. Who is our next caller, Johnny? Could you tell me who our next caller is, please? All right. Michelle, you're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead.
What's up, Michelle?
I'm just wondering if you work in a company that has a lot of different diverse races, and a black person uses the N-word on a regular basis. Is that okay?
Fired.
Or is that a fireable offense?
Fired. That's a fireable offense. Completely inappropriate word. It's my opinion. It shouldn't be used in society anywhere. If they want to use it with each other, I don't agree with it as long as it's out. But as long as it's outside the workplace, they can say what they want. But inside the workplace, if that word is used, that's a fireable offense in my opinion, just as if a white person said it.
Well, I think that there's a double standard that happens a lot of times because...
Well, not with me. Not with me.
I've seen it where people will say, well, it means one thing when a black person says it, and it's another thing when a white person says it. Mm-hmm. But I believe that, if a African American uses that terminology,
yeah,
and they're okay with it, then nobody should ever use the term. But
right,
it changes the whole game.
Michelle, I get your point, and I apologize. We're up against a hard break here, but I'm going to say this. I've said it a million times. The N-word should never be used under any circumstance, especially in the workplace. I don't care what the color of your skin is. We need to be consistent on this. It should never be used. And if an African American uses it or somebody white uses it, in my personal opinion, they both should be fired. We got to take a quick break. We'll try to get to some more of your calls coming up on the other side. We also have Amy Vanderpool from the BBC that's going to be joining us. Are we headed towards a civil war because of this impeachment thing that's going on with the president? We'll ask her that and much, much more. Coming up next, you're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. All right. Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, so glad you could join us. Yesterday we brought up this county commissioner in Tennessee who spoke negatively about Pete Buttigieg, who's running for president, Mayor Pete, called him a queer. And I say to myself, you should be fired for making a statement like that. Me and JD have been getting into it, and I think if you're in the workplace and you call somebody a racial slur or a homophobic slur, I believe you should be able to lose your job. We're taking your phone calls on it at 257-5396. Again, that number is 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off this segment with Donna? Donna, thanks for your patience. What's on your mind?
What's up, Donna?
I think you guys are full of crap. I just got into Vegas last night. I'm from out of state, and I have to agree with the other guy. Everybody makes a mistake. African-American people call each other that all the time.
So that's okay for us to do it?
It's you know what? No, it's not okay.
Okay, we
But
agree.
If you make a mistake on your job, you type something wrong. I used to work at a hospital.
So you think
make a
typing?
mistake
So you think?
typing things-
So you think?
Excuse me, I'm speaking.
Well, I'm
you
sorry.
Make a mistake typing something at a hospital.
Typing
you don't
something
get
wrong.
Fired.
You're equating
You don't get
Excuse
fired.
me. You're equating typing something wrong with calling somebody the N-word. Are you crazy? Are you freaking
No,
crazy?
I typed people's report.
And that's the same as
their
calling
medical
somebody the
report.
N-word? That's the same as calling
No.
somebody the N-word? What are you talking
No,
about?
it's much more important than that.
Oh, you are
The N-word
ridiculous.
Is a word.
Yeah, a typo
It's
is the
in
same.
stone.
Yeah, okay. So according to
It's in
Donna,
stone,
a typo in a report is the same as calling somebody the N-word. Are you nuts? Maybe you're in the hospital.
you nuts?
Are you a mental
you nuts?
patient? Donna, you're a mental
No.
patient. Good. I hope you type up 1,000,000 reports wrong and get fired, Donna. What do you think about that? If you think
I
that
think
it's
that I
if
hope
you think
you get fired.
well,
and
guess
you are
what?
a crazy
Guess what?
Idiot.
Guess what? I'm not, because I actually am talented and you're not. And you don't have a brain,
you
Donna.
don't have any idea
You don't
what
have
I
a
can do.
brain, Donna. If you think
Okay,
calling
well-
somebody the N-word is the same as a typo, then you are a complete buffoon, Donna. What do you do
There's
for a
a
work?
typo that makes a
What do
difference in
you
their
do f-
medical report.
Okay,
and
then
you don't
okay,
get
guess what?
fired.
Guess what? Then
have
you deserve
No idea how
okay,
often that
guess what?
happens.
Guess what? Then you deserve to be fired for that too. What do you think about that?
You know what? I don't work there anymore.
Oh, well,
but
what a
it
shocker.
happened.
What a
It
shocker.
happened.
You sound
I
like you're so
quit.
good at your job.
I
What a
quit.
shocker.
And Donna,
yeah, I'm
It happens
sure.
all the
Donna,
time.
you're saying
I hope
that
you don't ever have to go to the hospital.
I bet all your fellow employees that you work with hated you, Donna, because I do.
They do it all the
I
time.
bet
too.
they hate you.
have
You
no
sound like
idea.
a miserable woman. I bet you they hated
I'm
you at
not
work.
a miserable
You
woman.
sound miserable. You have a lot of
Hey,
hate in you.
You wanted some opinions.
I
and
bet-
If they're not your opinions,
Have you ever called somebody the
then
N-word,
they're the
Donna?
wrong
Be
word.
honest, Donna.
Of
Have you?
course not.
Oh, of course not. Well,
course
I don't
not.
know. I assume that ignorant people would use the word. That's why I thought you
You know-
used it.
You're saying the N-word that many times offends me.
Oh, well, too bad. N-word, 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 N-word. What do you think about that, Donna? What do you think about that, Donna? What do you think about that?
Are uneducated and ridiculous.
Well, you're the one that's jobless, not me. Have a nice day. 257. No, yeah. 257.
thanks for the call, Donna.
257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to a friend of the show. Why don't we do that? Let's go to Chris Wynn. What's up, Chris?
What up, C-Win?
What's going on, gentlemen? Wow, it's going to be tough to follow that call. I don't want to get lambasted like she did by any means.
Probably the right
Hey,
word.
I have a perspective on this whole issue regarding inflammatory language. And Brian, I'm going to come across as disagreeing with you, and that's fine. So look,
That's never happened
there's
before,
There's
ever.
an ad that runs on KDWN, right, where there's some Republican. I don't know if he's talking to Brian Kilmeade or Sean Hannity, where he talks about the differences between certain things. And he brings up Joe Biden, of course, right? Joe Biden rubbing a little girl's head as opposed to sexual assault, and how in a civilized society, these are different things. And Brian, yesterday you were talking about this issue, and you were saying how, we got to look at everything as an individual situation. You got to look at the details in each individual case. Yet at the same time, you're also trying to put in the same boat the word queer and the N-word, and it's not the same.
I didn't say it was the same. I didn't say it was the same.
Oh, you're absolutely making the.
No. Let me be very
connection.
clear. Okay, Chris, let me be clear.
You know, what he's saying is you're saying that the
I'm trying to make
punishment
it,
has been
Brian,
the same.
Brian, that's not really the main point. The main point I'm trying to make here. Look, it's a different thing, okay, when you have somebody that's talking. I'm not, and then, by the way,
Chris,
it's not
hold
something
on
I
a
would
second.
say.
Take
It's
a
not
deep.
something
I get what you're saying.
Let me get it out, Brian. Let me get it out real quick. Okay, it's a different thing. Okay, if you're using the word queer as opposed to the N-word.
Okay, I
It's a
get your
completely
point.
different thing.
I get your point. Let me be very clear here. If you work with somebody that is clearly a homosexual, that's admitted that he's homosexual, that's the
Right.
lifestyle he lives, and you don't like working with him for whatever reason, and a derogatory way of describing him and using the term queer, just like the guy in Tennessee did, that dummy in Tennessee, using queer to.
He doesn't work with Pete Buttigieg.
I'm
Buttigieg is not
I'm
even in
not
the room.
saying that.
No.
Just listen to what I'm saying. Let me finish.
Okay.
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 If someone in the workplace uses it in that same way towards somebody else that they work with in a derogatory fashion because of your coworker's sexuality, I absolutely believe 100% that person should be fired.
Okay, that's fine, but that's not what happened. That's not what you described yesterday. You were talking about this guy, this city commissioner, who was talking about Pete Buttigieg, who, by the way, happens to be homosexual. And look, I would love if you guys got a gay person on the show to address this, because I want to know exactly how the gay people feel when they are called.
Well, that's a
queer,
good point. That's a good point.
We all have worked or been around gay people, and I would expect that it's not the same thing if somebody calls a gay person queer than it would be to say, to Kamala Harris.
All right, well, do me a
or to
favor.
Barack Obama,
Do me a
call them the
favor,
N-word.
Chris Wynn. Do me a favor. Reach out to Richard Simmons. Let's see if he'll join the show. All right, I got to get to some other callers.
Yeah,
Chris,
thanks for calling,
Chris,
Wynn.
I love you. You know that. 257-5396, the number to call. 257-5396. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony, you're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead.
What's up, Anthony?
Good morning, gentlemen. JD, I have to agree with you on this. I just don't think communication in words is something you should be fired over. I think that HR departments should look into it, and should figure out how to deal with it.
Exactly.
My best friend is white. We're closer than brothers. We call each other N-word all the time.
Anthony, can I ask you something?
Yes.
So if you're African American, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so let's just
It
say.
don't bother me one bit.
Okay, no, I understand, but I just want to pose you a question. I respect your opinion. So if you're in the workplace, right, and somebody who is white doesn't like you, you don't get along with him, he doesn't get along with you. It's a volatile situation, and he screams out. Okay, and he screams out and calls you the N-word. You're telling me you wouldn't want that person fired?
No, I think that HR should deal with it because it's happened to me before, right? Again, I think that for me, because I had to study the word, because, when you're deployed, the N-word is a Greek word. It means black. It wasn't even given a negative connotation until Merriam-Webster changed it in the 1800s. It was still meant black. So I think that we should kind of educate ourselves. I understand that other black people have a problem with it, but for me, I have no problem with it.
You have no problem with people use.
I wanted to make sure they're understood.
You don't have a problem with people using the N-word as an African American. You don't have a problem with white people calling you the N-word. You don't have a problem with people using that word. I am shocked to hear you say this.
Right. I have more. Just don't lynch me. Just don't kill me. Just don't deny me work. But
that's not what I asked you. You don't have a problem with people using the N-word?
It doesn't bother me, But then everybody tells me I kind of have a different view of the world, and everybody kind of laughs at me.
Well, I'm not. Listen, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just shocked. I think the majority of African Americans would never want most people, if anybody, to use the N-word, especially somebody in the workplace that is white, calling them the N-word.
I think because most African Americans are black folks, haven't even studied the word and looked at its origin.
It's a word that was used during slavery to slaves. It's one of the most evil words you could use in the dictionary.
But it predates slavery, right? It predates us as black people. Predates all that. I think that throughout history, I think if you read the Bible, if you read Samuel,
I don't read the Bible. I'll be honest with you.
Deity was called me, right? N-I, right? And then
Anthony, do you have kids?
Because it meant the one.
Anthony,
so I think that.
Do you have a family, Anthony? Do you have kids?
Yes, I do.
You're okay with?
I'll make sure they get it. Don't let words and terms destroy you.
Okay, while I agree generally, don't let words destroy you. You're telling me though you're okay with your kids using the N-word?
For me, it doesn't bother me.
But that's not what I asked you. I know it. I know it doesn't bother you. I get that. I think you're in the minority when it comes to this, but that's fine.
I'm sure I am.
And that's fine. But you're telling me you are okay in the household, your kids using the N-word. You're okay with that?
Their friends use it, and
but that makes it okay.
White and black,
Brian, you're so tied up with this N-word thing, and I'm just talking about how in a workplace environment, offending someone else in 2019, you can lose everything that you have because of someone else's feelings. No matter how good of an employee you are, no matter how much you put in, I think that's aggressive. I think there should be alternative methods to prevent that from taking place. That's all I'm saying, Brian.
Right. I think HR departments have to deal with it.
They exist for a reason.
And I can tell you right now, the majority of HR departments, if they have a report and there are witnesses that a white person calls an African American the N-word, in most situations, they will be fired, Anthony. That is just a fact.
Right, and I agree, but I don't know if it's correct. I think that people should not lose their livelihoods for a mistake.
To me, that's not a mistake. To me, that's not a mistake. To me, a mistake is locking the keys in your car. Anthony, I respect your opinion, my friend. I appreciate.
Thanks for the call, Anthony.
I appreciate you calling in. I just simply disagree with you. Do you guys agree or disagree with Anthony? I'll open up the phone lines. Do you think that if somebody uses a racial slur in the workplace or a homophobic slur, do you think that they should lose their job, or do you agree with JD? What do you say to this? 257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Edward. Edward, what's going on?
What's up, Edward?
Yes. Well, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Now they're letting this wilding Irish violent monkey who attacked the bus, Colin McGregor, back into the state and Vegas on January 18th for some multi-million-dollar fight. Now, this is the height of hypocrisy. I mean, someone could call someone a name or whatever, and here this violent guy who attacked the bus with a chair, and he's being allowed in for the sake of money. So, that last guy, the black guy that didn't mind the N-word, why should he let that word hurt him, and he should raise his blood pressure and pull his hair out? And I mean, the fact that he can be so easygoing about it means that he's going to live longer and live happier. So he's the victor. The guy gritting his teeth and saying that word at him is the one that's going to impact themselves.
Okay,
but
Edward.
Colin McGregor, why would you defend a monkey like that coming in, this little ranting little piece of crap coming back into the state?
Well, here's the difference. Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that? Let me respond to that. First of all, there is a fine line between somebody calling somebody a racial slur in the workplace and McGregor, who is making arguably close to $1 billion for a company. There is a fine line there, the number one. Number two, he committed assault, and I agree with you. Because he's committed assault, I remember the story of him punching that guy at the bar. I believe he should have been suspended, and I don't believe he should have been able to fight for at least a year. He's been in trouble with the law before. But I don't know what the hell that has to do with what we're talking about. That is a completely different circumstance. And why are you talking about an MMA fighter? It has nothing to do with calling somebody the N-word. What are you talking about?
It shows that people look the other way at violence and domestic violence.
No, they don't. Listen.
Deal about someone calling someone a stupid name, some drunk on a bar stool saying some stupid name.
Those are two completely different circumstances.
The violence. The governor should block him from coming in. Why don't you get the governor on the air or the attorney?
I'll tell you what I would rather do.
I'll tell you what I would rather
do, Edward. Okay, I get it. I'll tell you what I'd rather do. I would promote a fight because you're annoying me, Edward. So what I want to do is I would promote a fight. I want to get McGregor in the ring with you, and I want him to beat your ass. That's what I want, and I will promote that fight. I promise you, I will promote that fight.
That sounds very reasonable, Brian.
I will promote.
Absolutely,
I will promote that fight. Yeah. Since you're not a McGregor fan, I'm sure he would love to get in the ring with you. 702-257-5396. By the way, I don't know why he brought up McGregor, but I am not going to defend McGregor. Okay, he's done some awful things. I don't think he should be allowed to fight anymore, just like John Jones. But I don't want to get into the MMA stuff. 257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Kellyanne. Kellyanne, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hi, Kellyanne.
Hi there. Brian, you're making my blood boil today.
Good, then I've done my job, Kellyanne.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. I got you to call in. I got you to listen. I've done my job.
JD, I don't know how you put up with him.
You're
despicable. You're just a petulant, arrogant.
I'm despicable because I want people to be treated nice in the workplace. Please explain your position, Kellyanne.
Okay, I'm going to explain.
Just keep on with the verbs.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain.
Please.
You have this big problem calling people names, but yet you call President Trump
a scumbag. Yes.
I can't even say the word.
Scumbag. Scumbag is the word.
You asked a 12-year-old boy to tell his dad that President Trump was that. I couldn't believe my ears.
What?
People
what
grow up.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're all over the place.
That word would put a bar of soap in your mouth.
What are you talking? I don't know what you're talking about. You're making my blood boil because I don't know what the hell you're saying. Will you please?
We're talking about words.
Okay,
words.
so
words are offensive.
Okay. Yeah.
You have an entire audience listening, and you use words like that to describe our president.
Okay, so let's get this right. You're comparing me calling Donald Trump a scumbag to somebody calling somebody the N-word in the workplace. Is that your position?
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let me explain to you in 30 seconds.
No, I'm not done.
No, I'm not done. No, I'm not done.
Another caller called in and called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. You went off on him.
Yes, because it's racist. Yes, because it's racist. Because it's racist.
That is not racist.
Called Sarah Huckabee. Sarah
Suckabee. Yeah, because she sucks. Yeah, because she sucks.
Yeah,
okay, because she sucks.
Today.
Yeah, okay.
Listen.
Yeah,
This is my whole point.
Brian, stop. mimicking our caller.
I can't help it. She's making me laugh.
Please continue, Kelly.
Go ahead. Because Sarah
JD
Suckabee
said
sucks.
Today that he's not a homosexual, and you said, well, that's debatable.
Yeah, because it's called a joke. Why don't you have a sense of humor? Boy, you must make your husband laugh.
And when Trump called Warren Pocahontas, it was also a joke, Brian, because of what happened with her.
That has racist connotations.
Exactly.
That has racist connotations.
Okay, well, now you're making exactly.
I have homophobic connotations. Do you have anybody in your family that's gay? I'll take them out on a date. I don't have a problem with that.
When you're saying that it's debatable if I'm homosexual or not, that's homophobic. That's the same vein.
So
Kellyanne, I'm far from homosexual.
Kellyanne, let me ask you a question, okay? Do you think it is okay to call somebody the N-word in the workplace? You okay with that?
No, I'm not okay.
Okay,
with
then
that.
we
And
agree.
I'm not okay
Good.
with you calling President Trump.
So here's why.
Call him.
Okay, so let me ask you another question then, Kellyanne. Since we're on the topic of excuse me, I'm going to pod you down if you don't let me ask you a question. Okay, so we're talking about me calling Donald Trump a scumbag. I'll give you in 30 seconds why I think he's a scumbag. I think anybody that goes after a person.
I know why you.
Okay,
think
why
it
don't you
doesn't
let me
make it
finish?
right,
Why don't
though.
you let me finish and then I'll let you
Because
talk.
I've heard your
Okay.
rants over and over
Okay.
and over and over
So I'm
again.
going to ask you
listen to it
somebody.
every single
Okay,
day.
pot her down because she won't shut up. Okay. God, you must drive your husband crazy. Anyway, let's go over why I would call Donald Trump a scumbag, okay? He goes after POWs. He goes after a guy like John McCain saying he doesn't respect him, okay, because he was captured. He sleeps with a porn star, unprotected sex, months after his wife has a child. He goes after a woman's looks. For example, Ted Cruz. He went after Ted Cruz's wife looks. He goes after every single person that disagrees with him on anything. He also dodged the war, claimed he had bone spurs. We all know that is full of crap, okay? He is a liar. He is a petulant liar if you want to talk about a 12-year-old. That is why I think the president of the United States is a scumbag, and it has absolutely nothing to do, or I should say 95% nothing to do with his policies. That is why I think Donald Trump is a scumbag. And forgive me, but calling Donald Trump a scumbag because of those reasons and calling somebody the N-word are two completely different levels and two completely different circumstances. And if you're not smart enough to understand that, then I don't know what else I can say to you, Kellyanne.
Well, I guess it's not a matter of intelligence.
Yeah, I guess it's not. I guess it's not. Have a nice day, Kellyanne. 257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Josh. Josh, you're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead.
What's up, Josh?
Josh, are you there?
Hello, Josh.
257-5396
Fair enough, Josh.
257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Karen. Karen, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, Karen.
Good morning.
What do you think about this, Karen? Go ahead.
I think I'm an African American, and I think that not everybody is going to understand that they can't say the word. So I determine how much power that word carries, not you. And just because you say it, it doesn't hold weight with me. I've been called that word a number of occasions by an elderly person, but because they call me that doesn't give me the right to disrespect them. I'm not going to belittle me or my character by accepting what they say about me or about any of my people.
When someone says that word to you, do you prefer that they lose their livelihood or they understand why that they can't say that word or why that word means what it does to you?
I don't think they should lose their livelihood, but I do think that there should be some type of education. I do believe that because I have said things that may not be appropriate. Should I have lost my livelihood? You know, I can't say, well, it's wrong for you to do something.
I think every situation, I can't, and Karen, I appreciate your perspective and I appreciate the phone call. I think every situation is different. I think every single case is different, and it should be a case-by-case basis. Let's go to David. David, you're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead.
Thanks for the call, Karen.
David, go ahead.
Hey, is that me, David?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Hey, yeah, I was just sitting here wondering, I've been listening to the conversation, and so I was wondering, we had this situation where a black security guard was fired for using a racial slur to a black teenager in a high school because he repeated what the black teenager said to
And he got
him.
his job back. He got his job back.
So you're gonna be the police, and you're gonna stop this between blacks?
No, first of all, let me just educate you on that. Okay, hold on. Let me respond.
No,
Okay, pot him down. Pot him down because we only got 30 seconds left. Obviously, he doesn't understand what a break is. The African-American, that security guard in that story, you're unaware, he got his job back. He was fired, and then he got his job back. That was in a completely different context. He was repeating what somebody called him. So your story makes absolutely no sense because you're unaware of what the actual story is, David. I don't think that word should ever be used in any circumstance under any context. But that security guard got his job back because he was repeating what somebody called him. Completely different circumstance, and make no mistake about it, if an African-American calls another African-American that at the workplace, I also believe that that is wrong and it should not happen. And we've talked about this time and time again. I don't believe that word should ever be used under any circumstance. I don't care what the color of your skin is. It just shouldn't be used. And it's amazing to me that there are so many people out there that don't understand that. It's a very simple, logical approach. Well, don't use the word.
Brian, there's clearly African Americans out there who don't understand that. And in my perspective, is if you make a mistake, you should not necessarily lose your livelihood.
I didn't say that.
If you make consistent mistakes, if it's a pattern of behavior, that's something totally different.
Didn't say that.
And in 2019, when you make one mistake, you can lose everything. And I think that's wrong.
Okay. Well, I never said that you lose your livelihood. I said that I wouldn't feel bad for you if you lost your job.
What is your job? Your job is your livelihood.
Okay. Well, I think you can always get another job. There are other opportunities out there. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Amy Vanderpool from the BBC will be joining us next. Are we headed to a civil war? She'll answer that question and more. Coming up next, you're listening to The Vegas Take.